sound speeds. And if you're a member of one of the IATSE locals, then I want you to pay close attention because I'm going to go over something that's not necessarily sound related, but is IATSE related in this video. And if you're a member of one of these IATSE locals, you're going to want to pay close attention. It doesn't matter if you're in camera, grip, electric, or sound, pay attention. Okay. In 2021, you know the phrase garbage in, garbage out. Well, based on little to no information that IATSE crew members had given our negotiators, they went forth towards the meeting with the AMPTP and tried to negotiate a better contract. But the way that they did it was not a way that we were interested in it at all. That's the reason why when they finally created the best negotiated contract that we've had in years, we were all looking at it saying, this is a big nothing burger. Why are we interested in this? Because to us, it wasn't that great. Now, it was ultimately voted yes, and mainly because people in post voted yes. Now, post people are going to be one of the big factors that we're going to have to get through to that we need a better contract in the year 2024. And the reason why is, again, garbage in, garbage out. If we want to get a better contract in 2024, we have got to start now. And by that, I mean, we, like in my local 479, we have been having negotiations committee meetings for the past few months, talking about what it is that we want exactly. The thing is, though, those are not going to come easy. And the negotiators that are in charge of IATSE's negotiation are going to have quite a challenge in negotiating this for the AMPTP. The AMPTP that represents the producers, they can very easily say, no, we're not going to go with this. And then what option do we have? Well, they can obviously go to other countries like Canada or the UK. They don't have nearly as high wages there. That's one of the reasons why they get a lot of projects now and take them away from America. But if we as crew members here in America want to try to get a better contract, we have to stand firm. And for that, it's not going to be conducive to us voting to have a strike authorization going into the negotiations. Why? Because after 2023's big strike with the WGA and the SAG-AFTRA, do you think we're going to instantly go into those negotiations with the AMPTP next year with a thumbs up yes vote to strike? There's probably going to be a lot of people that have nearly lost their house or have lost their house or some of their properties that are saying, I really don't want to strike. The problem is, though, if you want a better contract, you have to be willing to do it. And if we go into those negotiations with and decide to vote for a strike authorization and we do not grant it, then our chances of getting a better contract are slim to none. We would be lucky to get the same contract we've had, because when your strike power is gone, what else do you have? So we're going to be going into the contract already with not wanting to strike. None of us wanted to strike even back in 2021, but we were willing to if it meant getting a better contract. And in 2024, we don't want to, especially after the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes from 2023. But in order for us to do it and do it right, we need to arm our negotiators with the very best possible road to success. And that is going to mean voting yes if they ask for a strike authorization. That means you as a crew member need to start saving now. Start cutting back on the money you spend and start, I know that we're just getting that to work now, but we really need to tighten our belts and stay true. That way that when and if it gets to that point, we can say, yes, we're going to strike. If we don't, the chances of us getting a better contract are slim to none. Now, if you're a member of Post or one of the other IATSE crafts that is not on-set production, it is highly recommended for you to have solidarity with us crew members that are on the front lines. Yes, we know that you work at an air conditioning system and you don't have to deal with the actors. You worked a lot of the time during the SAG-AFTRA and Writers Guild strikes because you were able to. We weren't able to. So we're going to ask that you have our solidarity and our backs if we do call for a strike authorization. We know you're getting a good contract and a good deal that you're happy with now because you voted yes last year or 2 years ago in 2021. But we need to have your back now because we didn't get hardly anything that we wanted and needed. One of the things that we really wanted is to not, and this is one of the big things that our negotiators were like, well, they want longer turnarounds. They want a better turnaround. Okay, so they negotiated a 54-hour turnaround. That's not it. When we wrap at 7 a.m. on a Saturday, that doesn't mean we need to come in at Monday in the afternoon and start doing our work then. We don't want to do that. We would rather come in the morning on Monday if we have day work all week. We don't want to end up doing that. But at the same time, how do you end up getting that through to production? Well, it's very simple. You penalize them heavily if they're going to need to buy our weekend. If you want to go after Friday night, Saturday morning, after midnight, and you want to work us after that, you're going to have to pay for our weekend, because at that point, you're cutting into our personal time. When we wrap at 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning, we can't see our families. We can't do activities because we got to go home and rest a little bit before we end up in a very, very tired state, doing our chores, doing our activities, going to see family, doing whatever we have to do. And we're zombies all weekend, feeling shortchanged because we didn't get a proper amount of rest. And so when we say we're voting for more rest, that's what we mean. That's what we mean right there, is if you want to have our weekend, then you got to start adding a multiplier if we're going to be working after midnight. It's not enough to just say, well, time and a half after midnight, and after 3 a.m., it's going to be double time. We're already probably into that. If we started at noon or if we started at 3 p.m., we're going to be into that time already. What's the incentive? Because we're already in time and a half or double time. At that point, you need to add a multiplier to it. Say that if we're going to go after midnight on a Friday, early Saturday, then whatever our current rate is, multiply that by 1.5. So that way, if let's just say we're making $50 an hour, multiply that by 1.5 because we're at time and a half. Now you're making $75 an hour. Do that again, and you're not making $100 an hour. No, you're actually making, what is it? 75 times 1.5, whatever that happens to be. You're making almost $117 an hour if they want to shoot after midnight. And you may say, production's never going to go for that. Well, start doing more Thursday to Friday days. And then on Saturday or on Friday, bring us in for a part day. Bring us in from, noon, 3 p.m., whatever else, and wrap us before midnight. That way we can still have our full weekend and get an adequate amount of rest, and we're still able to function. That's the way you do it. You don't just say, well, we're just going to, deal with it and come in late in the afternoon on Monday. That's one of the ways that we're going to be negotiating. That's one of the things that we really need to have. That's the reason why IATSE needs to negotiate. This is not an easy craft at all, working on set in the world of production. But it doesn't need to be as difficult as we've made it in years past. And right now, with the current contract the way it is, it's not working to our benefit at all, because it still benefits the producers. They're able to actually manipulate the schedule the way they want to, and they don't care if we come in at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Monday. They're going to bring us in. There's no money penalty. It's only when you hit a producer in the pocket do they actually listen. And the only way to do that is by hitting them in such a way to get them incentivized to do things the way we want them to. So if your IATSE local is starting to do any kind of negotiations committees, become a member of that. Get your ideas together in what you want and how you would like to see it. And look at what is being put on the table from your local. Every single craft that you have in your mixed local, if you're in a mixed local, or your craft in general, if you're just in a local like, for example, 695, which is just sound and video assist, then they have their thoughts and ideas on what they would like to see on the table. Come up with it, be organized, present that to the National IATSE negotiations committee, and see what they can do for you. But you have to do your part and be willing to strike. I know you don't want to be out of work. I don't want to be out of work either. But you have to be willing to do that if you want a better contract. If you vote no, and we do not give the negotiations committee the tools they need in order to actually negotiate for us, then don't be surprised if you end up with a worse contract or the same old contract renegotiated for some, giving up a few things in order to get another 3% raise. Don't be surprised if that's the case, and you cannot blame the negotiators unless you do your part too. So that's where I'm going to leave this right now. Hopefully I've given you some stuff to think about, but be very aware that this is a very, very critical time, because the WGA, SAG-AFTRA, Teamsters are going to be negotiating about the same time we are. They may be willing to strike. And if so, it may be a good time for us to strike alongside of us, because if they're not able to negotiate with the Teamsters and the Teamsters strike, then we add our strike on top of that, because we're not going to be working anyway. Might as well. really have all the major locals put it to the AMPTP and actually try to bring our contract into the 2020s, because it is a very old, I mean, we've given up a lot of things over the years, and producers, granted, they're part of the studio, they're representing the studios, and they don't want to end up having to shell out extra money for things, but we can certainly shape the direction that they take things. You know how it is. Money incentivizes behavior. And so if you want a producer to do a certain thing, you can't sit there and say, I refuse on set, because it doesn't work that way. But what you can do is get it built into a contract. And then as long as the producers actually have a way of making it so that way they can still do it with their budget, within their budget, without having to shell out mass amounts of money, unless they really want to, then they'll be a lot more lenient in negotiating. They're going to still fight. AMPTP is still going to fight. But we'll see. I know that our local is coming up with some really good things in the bargaining committee, and I'm not going to go over any of that right now, because in case someone from the AMPTP happens to see this video, I don't want them to look at it and say, oh yeah, that's what they're going to be negotiating for. No, I'm not going to give you any insight there. But if you're a member of an IATSE local, get to be part of your bargaining committee if there is such a thing. And if not, you might want to go ahead and get going on that, because National IATSE is certainly going to be needing your input if they're going to want to negotiate for us a better contract. So there you go. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Sound Speeds, and be sure to tune in the future for more sound advice. Have a question you'd like answered, or want to add something? Be sure to write it in the comment section down below. You can also make a suggestion for future topics of discussion. Again, comment section down below, or you can email me at soundspeeds@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss out on future sound advice.